Good morning, everybody. I'm running right into this trade system right now because I'm in that part of the trade to where it's sort of all over the place. So we're going to have a look at this right now. Hi, everybody. This is Max Farrell. This is DexTrader.com. Today is July 30th, 2018, and we're going to get started right now. And I'm just going to sit here for a little while and let this thing run out. And as you can kind of see, you know, we're looking at all different kinds of things as we're trading. We're looking at the levels. We're looking at, you know, in this particular trade, I got into this trade because I felt really clean, even though that it broke that level right there, and we had some news and it kind of pushed up really fast. It still wanted to go up, and I knew the market well enough with this particular pair after those little kind of runs like that and this pullback, as long as it didn't break that pullback, that first arrow was going to be good for me. So simply enough. I'm basically, you know, in this trade, we're in for 38 something bucks, but this trade will win and lose a couple of times. I mean, it's crazy. You know, when you're watching this unfold, I mean, I still feel very comfortable with those areas. And as long as I went through my flow, I'm golden. So I'm just going to kind of sit back and wait. And you can kind of see, I got in for the 99 at this point because I knew that that's where the level was going to bounce at, just under that 1700. So if I can kind of stay there, but you can kind of see as soon as it pops off, we're floating down below. We're gonna drop below the number here, even though that it looks like, you know, is the loss about to happen? Is Max going to lose his first trade? All that kind of stuff in 3 weeks, and it's a possibility, you know. But I'm not worried about it, even though that this would be a $700 loss. It wouldn't break me for the month in that process, or even for the last week. We did really well. So 2 seconds left, and there it is, way above the win. 4 micro pips above the win, and that's how it works. I'm not too worried about the whole process from here because I know that it's subjective to trading. You got to be ready for trades like that. So okay, so we got into that trade, and if you really look at what did we do when this happened, we found that this was as a buying pattern. We had higher highs. The low just barely broke this process when we did this, but when we set the next support area, the next resistance area, this wasn't here yet. So this was not here yet. This wasn't set until this parameter here. So this arrow right here had set into play a few things. One thing that we were looking for when we're deciding this uptrend is when these little higher highs start to happen and higher lows start to happen, you know, where are they at into respect to each other? And when the next first up arrow that commits to that uptrend happens, where is it compared to these levels? Now, since this arrow was above this higher high here, okay, so high, high, and then this arrow is above that high for that next jump. I would also look at it is that if this was higher than, because if this was a pullback, okay, if this was the pullback, to make sure that the pullback didn't break the previous lows too much, right? And if you can kind of see, all these are at that same level. The 16900 is a pretty strong support level, okay? So I don't mind it hitting that a few times as long as there's other substructure in there to prove it, okay? So this is the justification to get into trades and make them perfect. Why? Because I made $300 in 5 minutes. That's why. Okay, so that's where you have to really look at the progression here of the trades is what makes it perfect. Okay, now do I go ahead and get into another trade because I think it looks okay? No. What I'm looking for is the pullback. I'm looking for the 3 or 4 justifications that I could be in this trade to do this process. If not, then it's all failure, and this is where we tend to falter. Let's look at some of these other trades that would have a good setup with us, and some of the reasons why we wouldn't have got into some of them. This one's pretty easy. Sort of consolidated almost immediately in this range here when we were first on. But it would have also been a trade that, if I roll back just a little bit, you can kind of see there was some news that happened in this area, gave us a quick push up, but then quickly established the levels again. Higher high, higher lows, okay, higher high. Again, another rock solid support area for it to bounce off, but committing to that same structure of going up. So this arrow right here would have been a really good arrow to be on, but not at the levels of where we've been at. This would have been a losing trade if we would have got in at the arrow. And the reason why I ended up not getting into this trade was because, and be quite honest with you, was almost a form of luck, because I went to this one, and that one didn't complete me. I didn't really feel good about it, because even though this was an uptrend, when the arrow came out, I did have this support level here. This was there, this resistance level. And so I didn't feel comfortable with it being so close to that resistance level. Where when we did this one, this resistance level wasn't there. It hadn't formed yet. Okay? And so I was comfortable with going with this particular trade with the setup values that I had. Now, if we had done it on this one, this is why you don't do every single trade. If we had done it on this one, this may have been a losing trade for us, depending on when we already got in. I would have set the levels right about here at 31.27, and this would have barely just finished 31.25. I would have went 31.27 on Nadex. We would have probably maybe microly just won that, but I doubt it. I doubt we would have won this particular trade. But also, when I see we having, and again, this isn't a super great level to be at right here. Why? Because 31.22 isn't a zero number, right? Unlike this one, which was at 1690 or 1600, 1900 or whatever it was. Okay, because we were bouncing off this level right here, which is 1690, something like that. So really close to that level. So I was really comfortable with that process. Plus, I didn't move on to engage the other trades. I look for what I find to be perfection in the trade, and I move on into that trade. And as you've seen, it was a winner. Now, in that trade, it was a winner and a loser like 6 or 7 times. In 5 minutes, it was a winner, it was a loser, it was a winner. If you watch that, sit there and watch that trade, you'll have a heart attack. That's why you don't hear anything from me. I had lowered my volume on my thing so you don't hear me swearing. But it really does come down to, in the microseconds of the trade, if you've done your homework right, the only thing that can kind of take it out is market fluctuation. And then you're just playing odds. That's all you were doing here at this point. The odds of getting to a good trade and not to a bad one. This one could have actually been a bad trade for us if we would have gotten into it. But because I got into the trade at this level and I put it at a certain particular number at 1699 on Nadex. Okay, remember that we're using spot Forex pricing, okay, on our charts, and indicative on Nadex. And indicative price is about 1.2 pips plus on Nadex rather than on the spot Forex. So you got to kind of keep that into consideration. All right, let's see if I can find some other trades for later. But that's my morning so far. I hope you enjoyed the video. It happened super quick, and you can kind of see there was a big number, and I'll show those here in just a second. All right, so you can kind of see here we got the system up. Right click, copy, and then going to go into max win. This is for Monday the 30th. Kind of plays out a little weird because we had 9 and 1 and all that kind of stuff, and usually gets weird. And some. Oh, boom, done. $352. That's what was won this morning. $352. I made a mistake buying only one. and then I had to go back and get the 9. But luckily I got the 9, about 25 cents. Yeah, right around in that area. So 60, so $38. So after fees and all that kind of good stuff. Fast trade. Back after SR. See, I keep notes too, and my notes are my notes. They work well for me. So again, started the week off. I haven't traded for 4 days, of course, because there was the weekend. But again, right now, $352 for the week. In the positive, yay! So keep that in mind. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, if you want to join the systems or what have you, I may not trade for the rest of the day, only because there is some economic news happening here in about 3 minutes. I'm stopping trading altogether because there's nothing else for me to be able to trade into and get into. And, you know, there's a couple other hits for the day, but I may trade after the break. Plus, I have some other stuff that I have to do. Remember, I don't sit on my computer all day and trade. Is $350 enough for the day? That's the big question. Is $352 enough for the day? You know, I'm doing 10 contracts, $352. Is this enough? And you have to ask yourself that question. If I trade 4 times a week, okay, 4 times 352, right around that area. Oop, that. 4 times 352. $1,400 a week times 4.8 weeks. That's $6,000 a month. Is that enough? Only you can answer that. All right. I'm Max Farrow. This is Dex Trader. We'll see you next time. And as always, trade well.